14, I moved house and I moved school. And when I moved school, it was a bit of a difficulty at first because the two schools that we applied to were full, and it was the third school in Leixlip, one town over, that I had to attend. But there was one big problem. It was policy that all junior cycle students study science. And up to this point, I had never met science before. At age 15, it never came on my radar. And I guess the biggest surprise in my life happened. I loved it. It soon became my favorite subject, so my notions of perhaps what career I had totally changed at age 15. And I went from somebody who really saw science as something that was perhaps not for me, as something that was all about everyone and was going to change the world, and I needed to be part of that. And I had loads more questions, so I went on to study physics for a degree, a physics PhD, and I stand before you as an assistant professor in physics at Trinity College. Thank you. I guess for me, as I reflect on that and I look back, I feel a sense of regret at the possibility of dying, blissfully unaware of the world and wonders of science. And I'm on a mission to ensure more people die knowing. In 2014, I founded Trinity Walton Club, a STEM educational enrichment program for second-level students. The program is a cross-school collaboration based in Trinity College between the schools of physics, mathematics, and education. And we came together to design a very unique educational experience and environment. The club acts as a hub to unite like-minded second-level students and connect them with inspirational role models, STEM researchers and academics from our university and outside of our university. And I guess our pedagogic philosophy centralizes around developing capacity for learner autonomy, so that these young people feel that they are in the driving seat of their own education. 3 years later, we are creating passionate, forward-thinking innovators and entrepreneurs who are curious, who are independent in thought, who are creative problem solvers, and most importantly, are courageous enough to try, to fail, and to fail better the next time.
Can I ask everybody to just take a moment and close your eyes? And I want you to bring a vision into your head, and that vision is of a teacher that has impacted you in your life. It could have been a teacher in school, a parent, a cousin, a brother, a sister, or a moment. And just bring that person vividly into your mind and why they impacted you. And now open your eyes. The story of education, and I bet if any one of you today told me about that educator who has meant something or has impacted your life, the story of education and good educators is about vision, hope, and possibility. I believe that great educators open the world of possibility to learners, and inspired learners offer hope back into the world. One man, John Henry Newman, amongst many educational innovators, believes that the gift of education and its institutions are places not just where people learn, but where they flourish. They're not confined to formal moments or institutional settings that we probably have all experienced. The classroom, the end-on classroom experience, being instructed from the top by the teacher or the lecture hall, or indeed, in that very special moment, the exam output. Instead, John Henry Newman voiced a vision for education that was about pursuing the disinterested pursuit of knowledge. This is a vision and this is an ethos that is about taking learners on a path into their own curiosity, often beyond subject matter disciplines, often breaking the rules of intellectual domains. In 1854, he brought a missive, the idea of the university, into the world. And I believe, and we believe here today, that that missive is as important in the 21st century as it was when he scribed it. In an era of education massification, increased commercialization, with the pervasiveness of technology, albeit wonderful, and the rise of EdTech, we as educators, as great institutes of learning, need to ask ourselves, how are we supporting not just learning, but flourishing? How are we supporting the disinterested pursuit of knowledge? To address the question, it might be helpful to just take a moment and think about the brain and how we learn. Newman believed that to discover and to teach were distinct functions, and they were distinct gifts, and they are gifts. He believed that it was the combination of these that sold the passion of education to learners. So if we look at the brain, it naturally follows the same train. When any of us are engaged in a moment of learning or problem solving or innovation, particularly for novel ideas, the brain pivots between divergent thinking, that is mind wandering, incubation, intuition, and convergent thinking, assimilating information, adaptivity, and focused problem solving. In other words, the brain naturally pivots between flourishing. Similarly, neuroscience since the 1960s has challenged the very notion of a single intelligence or IQ. Instead, it advocates for what we call the multiple intelligences. And this is actually how people learn. All of us sitting here today have different learning styles, whether it be kinesthetic through our bodies, or visually, aurally, auditory. Some of us like to work in groups, interdisciplinary, interpersonally. Some of us like to work alone. So the question is then, if our brains and our learning styles and our innate intelligences are naturally dynamic and curious and move in a direction towards flourishing, does it not make sense that the environments and the methodologies we set up for learning should be the same? One such environment is the Walton Club. How does it do this? Well, it sits on a university campus, but outside the formal education system. There are no exam outputs. Critically, students between the ages of 13 and 17 self-select to give up their teenage time on a Saturday to come to Walton Club and to learn about science. Its educators are researchers, graduate and postgraduate, that are less instructive and more facilitators or mentors or tutors. So when I asked you to think about that person that has impacted your learning or taught you something in your life, I bet that person spoke to you more like a mentor or a tutor or a facilitator. In short, a guide. What's phenomenal about Walton Club and other alternative environments like it is that it's not just creating STEM capacity. It is creating STEM capacity in a very innovative and creative way. As an educational researcher coming in to work with the club, I can see that they consider space and how a learner changes when you change the space they're learning in. They use very creative teaching methodologies. They allow for the fail, try again, fail again. In other words, they allow incubation. They also radically collaborate with interdisciplinary partners from the world of business, education, and creativity. As a project architect in business, and then a creative researcher in education, it's very clear to me, both looking at the science, the sociology, the philosophy, that environments like the Walton Club address that question that I spoke about earlier. It's in spaces like the Walton Club we see the potential, not just for learning, but for flourishing in education.
I've always loved maths. Ever since I can remember, I couldn't wait to learn more about the subject, to explore it to its very depths and to discover everything I could. Unfortunately, I often found that my age restricted my capacity to do this. Like Sarah said, within the school education system, it's often very exam-focused and exam-driven, which makes the Walton Club incredibly unique because it not only crosses those boundaries of age, it actually surpasses them because it doesn't have any. I always wanted to know about how the world works. I didn't always know that this was called physics, but there you go. When I was in second year, Arlene came to my school to discuss a STEM club that she was setting up in Trinity College. Thought this sounded incredible, and I knew that I really wanted to join. But at the time, I didn't realize what an incredible life-changing impact it would have on me. From my very first Saturday at Trinity, a plethora of fascinating questions that 13-year-old me was just beginning to think about and wonder were raised. Walton Club gave me the skills and facilitated me in answering them and coming up with the answers myself. Who knew that the music I was making with my violin could be explained by physics? Who knew that grass wasn't actually green? And who knew that I could make a difference in the world? Walton Club has been continuously changing and evolving, along with the topics we explore on a weekly basis. In Walton Club, we learn differently, and this is mostly thanks to the incredible team of educators, STEM researchers, who are studying the subjects that I was passionate about at an incredibly advanced level, and were only too happy to share that knowledge with me. It was a revelation. Walton Club truly has changed my life, because it not only has taught me how to identify problems I see in the world, but to actually think about solutions and ways to solve these problems. This is perfectly encapsulated in the project that I did in my first year of Walton Club. From my experience of playing long violin pieces with many page turns, I always figured that it'd be really incredibly useful if the pages just turned themselves, so that I didn't have to stop playing to do it. I got a group together, and with the help of the Trinity Walton Club team, we came up with a project, a device that sat on top of a music stand and turned the pages, and it worked. How cool is that? At age 13, then 14 and 15, to be able to see something in the world that you'd like to change, and to be actually able to do it. I'm incredibly, incredibly honored and humbled that I've been a part of this Walton Club experience for the last 3 years, and very proud to say that I'm a member of the Trinity Walton Club. Thank you.
Isn't Sarah the perfect example of a passionate, forward-thinking innovator and entrepreneur? Sarah is one of 1,000 students we have worked with over the last 3 years, and if anybody would like to know more, I would be only too happy to connect. The program is not for profit, and we're always looking for support to work with more students.
My call to action is to educators, institutions, and critically to policymakers and business people to come together with these environments, collaborate, and help us build a flourishing, innovative learning future.
Walton Club is one of the most incredibly diverse learning environments, or any environment, that I've ever been a part of. It's truly heightened my awareness for the need for diversity. For when a group is working on a project, we get incredibly better results when the group is diverse, so they can come up with a solution that benefits everyone. I think society as a whole should be more diverse, and I want to play a part in building and engineering this. Thank you.